Well, to discuss these proposed changes to the powers of Australia's intelligence community, I'm joined now by Jon Lawrence. He's the Executive Officer for Electronic Frontiers Australia. It's a non-profit organisation which represents internet users concerned about online freedoms and rights. And he joins me from Melbourne. Jon Lawrence, couldn't this just be considered an ambit claim by Australia's intelligence agencies, one that may never be approved by the government itself?
Well, hi Kim, let's certainly hope so. I mean, what's contained in this, and it's quite a substantial document that I guess the first thing to say is the community's been given a mere 4 weeks to respond to it, so that's certainly a cause for concern in the first instance. But what it really contains, if you look at it in its totality, is potentially a massive increase in surveillance powers accompanied with a corresponding decrease in accountability. So there's some pretty serious cause for concern here.
Do you think it's the most significant expansion of intelligence powers since the changes that were made in the wake of September the 11th?
Well, we've seen a number of enhancements, probably not the right word, but a number of increases in surveillance powers over the years since that as well, some of which have been pushed through the Parliament with probably not insufficient scrutiny and exposure to the public. So, yeah, this does seem, it's very concerning. We're seeing, very similar proposals and moves in the United Kingdom. Obviously, the US has some pretty broad powers already under their Patriot Act. But, what we're seeing here are the sort of powers that probably fit better in a place like China or Iran. I mean, there are some serious concerns here.
But nevertheless, as you point out, countries like the UK and the United States, for example, are going down a very similar road. Mm-hmm. Couldn't it be argued that intelligence agencies in this day and age just have to have the ability to monitor all sorts of communications?
Well, the intelligence agencies already have some pretty wide-ranging powers, and a lot of the proposals that are contained here are pretty broad and sort of wide-reaching, and really sort of gives the impression that what they're looking to be able to do is go on fishing expeditions. Really, there are the proposals to extend surveillance onto the social networks, we would argue is probably pretty not really required.
But couldn't it be argued that a lot of people who are following extremist activities or extremist groups, this is how people are communicating these days, through social networking sites, through internet, phone contact, that type of thing?
Yeah, that's very true. But as I said, the intelligence agencies already have direct surveillance powers on individuals. So whether they really need these sort of broad, sweeping surveillance powers across the entire community, I think remains to be seen. And we've certainly not seen any powerful arguments in the discussion paper so far. We're still digesting it, of course, because it's quite a large document and there's a lot to go through. But I'd question whether these powers are really required.
One of the suggestions is perhaps to compel telecommunications companies to keep data for up to 2 years. It's my understanding that some of them already retain data for some quite lengthy periods.
Certainly, and some don't. And of course, one of the issues there, particularly in terms of internet data, and if you're talking about criminals or terrorists or whoever they are that have any level of sophistication, they're going to be encrypting their data. So it's going to be very difficult for the intelligence agencies to access that data, even if they can intercept it. So again, we'd question whether this is a really really effective way of them to spend their time. We certainly understand that that there's quite a legitimate need for the agencies to have access to data and so forth, but we're not entirely convinced that the civil liberties and the privacy issues that go with these proposals warrant that sort of access.
Okay, Jon Lawrence from Electronic Frontiers Australia, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Kim.